live. Yay. Welcome everybody to Freedom Friday. And I'm here with Samantha Simpson.
Hello.
And yay. And she embodies, practices, and teaches the Bowspring Postural Method. So one of the really funny things I just want to say before we begin, it's like you'll see like in her pictures and stuff, she has beautiful posture. She had a moment before we were going to go on camera where she's like, right. Because the concept of really connecting in body, mind, and spirit, the posture and the alignment, it isn't always just like this. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's like that. So that was a beautiful way to launch into this. One of the things also that zinged in for me yesterday as I was reflecting on connecting with you um, was the idea that we as spirit literally download what we want our energy body to be for this lifetime. Because we want to fully be able to embody spirit. So what I mean by that is, of course, over the course of our lifetime, we have all different sorts of experiences that can expand and contract the experience of being embodied. But the truth is, we're always on this journey of trying to open and expand that. And we literally feel that within our body. So part of what I had written about in the write up for this was about the liver energy. So in the Chinese five element consciousness, our liver energy is connected with our tendons and our ligaments. And it is about how we process stress, frustration, tension, anger. It's about how we express ourselves, how we connect into the body. So, like, though our heart is where the seat of spirit is, our heart relies on our liver energy to really bring spirit into the embodiment of all of life, like how we take action. So, another thought before I want to kind of pass it to you that I had is so last week I had a lovely conversation with Becky Lorenzana about the practice beyond the practice. This concept is really more about the practice within the practice. Because when we think about, any movement, any form, whether we're talking about forms of yoga, qigong, excuse me, bowspring. So when we talk about the movement and the form, it's like, yeah, first you're kind of learning how to do the form, but there's a deeper level that it's hard to teach, but it's something that you feel. And as a teacher, and I know you're going to speak to this, you have to embody it in order to really help people to get to that level, to transmit of creating that alignment within where it's not just like I'm putting myself in this particular posture. It becomes a deeper level of alignment, body, mind, and spirit. So I'm going to toss it over to you to see what that kind of brings up to share.
Well, first of all, the first thing I thought up was when you spoke about the seeing me in pictures of perfect posture. It's a little bit deceiving, the bowspring. And right now I have this urge, and I've always got an urge to kind of like move and sway with my energy within. And when I did get up to go move around, I was like just moving with this energy in my body. And bowspring is dynamic. It's not a static practice or system. It's to be used while we're in motion. And that's one thing that can't be seen from the photographs, that it's pulsing and it's moving with life. It's springy, it's bouncy. And I have to reel in the urge to do it all of the time, especially when I'm doing an interview or something like this.
Just subtly.
I'll do it with my hands. But the body, the mind, and the soul. And I like what you were talking about, the liver in relation to the heart. Wow, that's some things that I haven't studied is the Chinese system, but I hear that there are some parallels to what my understanding is. I do remember before I discovered Bowspring, I had this liver emergency. I began to feel my liver for the first time, and I'm not sure I knew what that was about, but it felt like it was restricted. And when I began to embody the Bowspring, I felt a truth movement and alignment for the first time, a truth I could not deny, even though I wanted to, because it went contrary to what I had studied and practiced for the past 30 years plus.
Mm.
It was not easy because I was set into the patterns of modern day society, living in chairs, walking on artificially flat surfaces, had brought my body to a pattern that was separate from nature. So coming back to nature didn't feel normal. It felt weird, and still does sometimes, but it's just oh so juicy in that.
That is so friggin' powerful. Yeah, I didn't even know that, guys, before I asked Samantha to join me. So your liver was literally like restricted, bulging, like bursting forth, trying to support you and bringing it to a level of healing. Because I kind of hinted at this, but the liver has to express itself, has to. In the five element consciousness, it's spring. I know it's bowspring, but it's the element of, it's the season of spring. So nothing can stop spring. It's this unstoppable force of expression and movement, right? So the liver does not like to be restricted. So let's apply this to something even a little more clinical. So when people have a lot of stagnancy in their liver, there's a lot of different ways that can show up. But sometimes when they literally haven't been allowing themselves to fully move in life, whether it's at the physical level, and oftentimes it's multiple levels, but the physical level, the emotional level, you know, in their career, in their relationships, whatever, like the liver hasn't it's got to move. It's got to move, right? So you see what I'm doing? Like people literally will get to the point where the liver will sneak it out any way that it can. Like people will develop tremors, people will get restless leg syndrome, that you just get fidgeting because that liver just needs to move. So it's like if you're having that experience, whether it's at the subtle level or the big level, it really is a message to kind of tune in and be like, all right, what are you trying to tell me? And the beauty is practices like what I teach and what you teach are so in alignment. I love that you talked about it as being flowing and dynamic, because we are. I mean, energy isn't static. Even though we can't always see it, it's still all around us all the time and within.
Mm-hmm. The energy of the bowspring is palpable, and I've had people. It's for everybody, so everybody can embody it. Even my grandfather, before he passed, he was paralyzed, quadriplegic. I propped him up in the bowspring, and he let out this just natural sigh of relief. And because they had him in his chair all day long, he was even his bed like put him in the C-shaped curve, and I propped him up like that, and it was just like, oh, where was I going with that? Okay, it's anybody can embody it and anybody can apply it, but it's not everybody's ready for it. The energy of it is such a powerful and potent medicine that people have actually, I've seen them literally walk out of my class backwards and saying that was different. I'm not kidding. This happens a lot.
Right. Yeah, I hear you, because there's so much that we embody within that organ system. So I talk about the liver itself, but that's literally the tendons. So we wrap up within our tendons so much, the physical stuff, traumas. Literally, we hold these patterns and contractures in the body. And when you are intentionally doing a practice that opens that, it doesn't just open it at the level of the body, especially when it's something that's so aligned as what you teach and what I teach. It's going to open it at the level of emotion and even open it to the level of spirit. So you're right. Like if somebody isn't fully prepared for that, and it's going to start stirring things up, and it's like, what just happened there? And that's the power of it. That's the gift in it. And that's thank God we have these practices in this day and age, because we've got so much wrapped up. There's so much happening right now for all of us.
And the bowspring opens somatically sensitive areas of the body. So we'll hold the throat open. Mm. If we've been our whole life like this, and I was one of those people who I spent my whole life looking at the floor. I was cut off from the rest of humanity because of that. And when I began to embody the Bowspring in my daily life, one of the first breakthroughs was a spiritual one. It was about my connection to the rest of the world. I noticed for the first time that there were not only were there were other people who were actually looking up, and they had been there the whole time. And I also saw other people who were still looking down, and I thought that was me. The world just felt like such a friendlier place. So we're opening the throat, a lot of sensitive areas there related to our voice. Also opening the low belly, which we've always been taught to suck in and get smaller there,
Yeah.
and as well as the pelvic floor, which is really hard for a lot of people to go there. So.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Tell me how this beautiful practice, you and I were talking before that you are the only person in this beautiful state of Indiana who teaches this method. So how did it find you? That sounds like it's exactly what happened.
It did. I was uh, doing what I had been doing for years, which was moving from career to career to career, trying to find out what was for me, and nothing really clicked or fit. I had been practicing yoga since I was a little girl, and had within the last 5 years started teaching it, just as a side job. And I had always been very, very, very stringent on the straight up and down kind of Iyengar style, very, very attached to this straight locked alignment. Um, and I was also dabbling in business, so I started an Airbnb. Um, I was renting out the spare room in my apartment, and a woman came to stay with me, and she knew I was a yoga teacher, and we were having a conversation about pelvic floor, kind of nerding out, and she suggested that I anteriorly tilt my pelvis, and I told her, oh, that was no way could I ever do that, because my physical therapist told me not to. I had prolapse, and doctor said not to, my yoga teacher said not to. And she goes, she did like the takeaway method. Well, it's not for everybody. It's called Bowspring. And I basically just dismissed her, but then ran inside and looked it up and spent the next 2 hours on the website looking it up. And I thought it was intriguing because it said you could do this posture while you do your everyday activities. And it was just so different from anything I'd ever seen before. I thought, okay, I'll give it a whirl. I'll try it tomorrow while I work. I had, at the time, was a therapist for autistic children, and so I was getting up and down from the floor all day long. And so this practice asks you to keep your throat and your low belly open the whole time. So I had to get up and down from the floor a totally different way all day long. Anyway, at the end of the day, when I'm cooking my dinner, I felt this amazing feeling. It was the absence of a low back pain that had been so consistent that I didn't even notice it was there until it was gone that night. And I felt a lightness in my pelvic floor that I don't often feel from the prolapse. Usually there's a heaviness so much that I have to either lean on the counter when I'm cooking or even sit on the counter. But I was like, oh my God, I don't care what the therapist said anymore. I'm going to do this. And then it was from then on, I knew like I had to study it and study it exclusively.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's amazing. And that's so powerful because, as I mentioned in the beginning, we are energy bodies. So what you're speaking of is like whether we realize it or not, I mean, we dedicate, whatever a period of time to a practice. What about all the other space in between, right? So if you're practicing being in a place of alignment and all that space in between, what does that open up for your energy flow? Right? I mean, that's what you're describing. It's like it changed everything. You had less pain.
Yeah.
I'm guessing maybe, I mean, I'm projecting this, but maybe even less fatigue. It's like, it's just because everything is moving with, it's not getting stuck within the body.
I've seen it. It changed me, like confidence wise. It changed the way I feel more comfortable talking to people in public. I could I started my own business. I never thought or never wanted to do that before. I didn't want the responsibility or the stress of it. And now I do that full time. And I couldn't see it any other way. I would have never had the confidence to do that before. My mind has been opened up to new things that I would have laughed at before, but now I'm like living it and breathing it and just soaking it all up. Physically, I feel like I could do almost anything. I feel like I grew up and I was not the athletic one. In fact, I feel like I had delays in fine motor and gross motor activities. I wasn't good with my hands, and in gym class, I was behind my peers. That is not the case anymore. I feel like I could run, I could jump, I did this crate stacking contest at the climbing gym that I teach at, and where they put a harness on you and they hand you a crate and you stack it underneath you. And I envisioned this, like, we didn't have we do it every year, and I envisioned it. We didn't have it in 2020 because of 2020, and then I thought in 2021 I'm going to win. And at 40 years old, I won this, and I was up against 22-year-olds.
I love it.
15 crates, and it's because of the Bowspring. It's empowering everywhere. Yeah, like what I hear is it's empowering and energizing and creating flow in your body, but it's also helping you with processing emotion and being able to fully embody the truth of who you are, your spirit. A lot of people say that it gives them bravery.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I just want to share kind of an equal funny reflection. So I quit practicing all traditional exercise in 2009 and only do Qigong. So Qigong is Chinese energy exercise that moves the energy through meridians in a very subtle way that looks like nothing. And then a standing posture that, yes, it's all about, whoa, yeah, talk about, yeah, being able to face things I never thought I could face because I started being able to see them through a new lens and stepping into the truth of who I am. And anyone who knows me from days of old knows how transformed I am. And I was someone like you too, like I couldn't, okay, my Chi brothers and sisters, anyone who's tuning in, like I couldn't do a cartwheel to save my life. Now I can stand on my head for prolonged periods of time. Now it started when I was about 40, being able to do all this and do this like martial arts dancing thing. But probably the funniest thing is with my family, because they got their own little things about, okay, whatever, mom. And we were on a trip a couple of years ago and we were going to go rock climbing, and it was like really out there kind of rock climbing. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And they're like, really? Like, just because I don't do this stuff all the time doesn't mean I can't. And I do because of everything you're talking about, because it's about my alignment with my energy and my spirit. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get to the top of that mountain. Watch me. So it's so much fun to, yeah. And I mean, same thing. It's like, who would have thought, when I look at, I opened my practice 12/12/2014. And there's a time in my life, I'm like, you did what? Huh? On your own? So yeah, these practices are so powerful. And for anyone who's listening, I totally want you to check out more about this lovely, lovely lady here, Samantha Simpson. Where are you teaching locally?
I teach privately and virtually from my home studio. So I've worked with people in Australia before. That's my furthest student.
That's amazing.
So I also have 2 group classes now. There's going to be a third one. The 2 are, one is at Epic Climbing and Fitness. That's Monday nights. And the other one's at the new Epicenter Indie Healing Center in the Bates Hendricks neighborhood. And the third one will begin in January at Ooh Baby. It's a medical studio run by a nurse practitioner, focusing on mama and baby health.
Awesome. Well, I'll post in the comments people can get in touch with you. Any final anything for us? Anything maybe that you could show us? It would support us. I don't know. It could be simple.
I
Maybe
can, I'll show
here.
you something. I didn't, I'm just, it's fine. So this is really cool. I've had people contact me later on where I've not even really taught them. Maybe they caught a video or something, and then they told me that this alignment changed their life. Uh, my favorite example recently is the guy who makes my signs. I went and got a sign made, and he was like, "This is really cool." He saw the pictures on the sign. What is this? And as I was paying, I explained it to him real quick in about 5 minutes, how you could do it while you're walking. And he said he was on a weight loss journey. Um, I came back in a few months later, and he looks like a different man. He had lost so much weight, and he says, "This, what you taught me, changed my life. It changed the way I walk, and my back no longer hurts, and I could just go on and on walking." So that is a testament to why I'll share it with you this because it might change somebody's
Awesome.
life.
Yeah.
So we're looking for springs in the body. So I don't want to get too caught up in the alignment because you can really early on, I just want you to be able to feel it and feel the springs without being too rigid. So we'll think about a lightness of your heart. So the rib cage, it takes precedent to anything here. It's a lightness and a fullness all the way around. The ribs lift and are full. And we don't want to lock anything out. Nothing is hyperextended or locked. I'm going to teach you a standing position. Okay. So if we're standing or walking, and typically in our modern alignment, this requires least amount of energy to stand in the heels, line yourself up, and lock out the knees, right? And a lot of people will either push the pelvis forward, or especially women will stick it back like that and collapse into their low back, which both of them have problems. Both of them are locked out and very low energy. So in the bowspring, we'll bring our body weight to the front part of our feet instead of our heels. Put a bend and a spring in the knees. Okay. So it's kind of like if you're on a boat that was rocking, you wouldn't want to lock your knees out and put your weight in your heels. You want to be in a springy position. And you can always, we call it testing the spring with a pulse. Okay, if you're locked, you can't spring, but if you're in the front part, okay, and it allows for a lateral side to side movement. Okay, radiant heart is full, and there's a little anterior pelvic tilt. The sits bones get wide, but radiant heart takes precedent here. All right, springiness, and you can walk like this. When you walk, it's we call it a dig drag. So you're isometrically activating the posterior chain, which is the back side of the body, and it starts in the feet. So it helps to wear a more grounding kind of shoe that you can feel the earth with. So.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And it just feels like it's fun. Like let's put a little more pep in our step, right?
It brings the spring, and a lot of people say they feel safer in movement. They don't feel. A guy who works in the restaurant industry. I love the way he illustrated it. He's English as a second language, so he goes in the kitchen. I don't feel like I'm going to do this anymore. Basically, he's saying he doesn't have the fear of slipping anymore because he's not locked out or heel walking.
Oh, wow.
Wow. The front part of the foot is the paw, which a lot of people, their transverse arches collapsed in their paw. And so this kind of in isometric engagement we're giving it is bringing the spring back to the arches of the foot and recreating that functional hydraulic system that we've lost from walking on artificially hard surfaces and smooth. So,
thank you so much.
Feel safer.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I'm just, okay, this a little rudimentary, but just like what is it? In a car that, so you can go off-roading and you've got that, the springs, right? So it's not, yeah, you're safer. I love it. That makes perfect sense because if you're rigid, beautiful. All right. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank
This was
you.
awesome. And everybody, I think, no, I got one more next week, guys, before the new year. So enjoy your weekend. And thanks again for joining me, Samantha.
Thank you. Thanks for having
Bye.
me. Bye.